Hi everyone, this section of notes is on order of operations. So what is order of operations? It is exactly what it says. It gives us the order in which we're going to do operations in a problem. And here's why we need them. Let's say we had this problem, 3 plus 5 times 2. You might be tempted to do the 3 plus 5 first because it comes first in the problem. So 3 plus 5 is going to give us 8. And then you would multiply by 2. I'm going to cross that 3 plus 5 out since I took care of it and I got my 8 there. And then 8 times 2 is going to give me 16. So my answer here would be 16. But maybe down here I would decide, oh, I like to get my multiplication taken care of first and get that out of the way. So I would do 5 times 2 first and I would get 10. And then I would add in my 3 to get 13. So I've got different answers. Same operations, same numbers, but different answers because I did them in a different order. So that's why we need the order of operations. All right, so what is the order of operations? In what order are we going to do the operations when we have these problems? First of all, we're going to take care of anything that's in parentheses. So after we do our parentheses, after we've taken care of any problems that are in parentheses, then we'll move on to exponents. After we've taken care of any exponent problems, we will multiply or divide whichever comes first, most to the left in the problem. Then we will finally, as a last operation, do our adding or subtracting. And again, whichever comes first in the problem. The only time we would ever move adding and subtracting from the last place is if it happened to be in parentheses, which would move it up here. So some clever ways to remember these orders. So we could remember the phrase, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The P in the please is parentheses, the E in the excuse is exponents, and so on. Or it might be easier just for you to remember the word PEMDAS to help you remember this order of operations, PEMDAS. All right, so let's look at how I did this first problem. I like to use a method called funneling down. First of all, I wrote my PEMDAS here just to remind me of the order in which I need to do things. I looked at my problem to see if I had any parentheses. There were no parentheses here. Then I looked at my problem to see if I had any exponents. There were no exponent problems here either. Then I looked for multiplying or dividing. I had a multiplication problem. 18 divided by 6 gave me 3. I crossed out my 18 and my 6 because I'd used those and I didn't want to get confused and think I hadn't used those. Then I brought down any other operations that were there and any other numbers that were there. So I hadn't used the subtraction sign, so I brought that down. I hadn't used the 36, so I brought that down. And finally I did 36 minus 3, my last step, adding and subtracting, and I got an answer of 33. So that's how you use the funnel down method to figure an order of operations problem. Let's look at our next problem here. This is 11 plus 2 to the third times 5. So let's see, do we have any parentheses? No. Do we have any exponents? Oh, we do. 2 to the third. Now remember, 2 to the third is not 2 times 3. It's 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So that funnels down to 8. I've taken care of the 2 to the third. I'm going to bring down every operation that I haven't used and every number that I haven't used. Now I'm going on. I've done my exponents. Now I look for multiply or divide. And so I see that I've got a multiplication problem here. And so I'm going to multiply 8 times 5, which is 40. I've gotten rid of my multiply or my divide. I bring down the rest of my operations and numbers. And 11 plus 40, finally, my add and subtract, gives me 51. And so I've taken care of all of my order of operations, and my final answer should be 51. Let's look at another problem here. I've got 5 times, we say this, the quantity, 28 divided by 7 minus 4 squared. So we look first of all at parentheses, and we do have parentheses this time. So we've got 28 divided by 7. 28 divided by 7 will give us 4. So we've taken care of this. We bring down all the operations and numbers that we haven't used. Then we look for exponents, and we do have an exponent. So we've taken care of our parentheses. We look at our exponent. We've got 4 squared. We know that 4 squared is 4 times 4, or 16. So we've taken care of that. Bring down all of our operations and our numbers that we haven't used. And then we're going to multiply or divide. We have a multiplication problem here. So we've got 4 times 5 is 20. Taking care of those numbers. I've taken care of multiply or divide. Bring down all the numbers I haven't used. So minus 16. And finally 20 minus 16 gives us 4. And we've taken care of add and subtract. So we're done with that problem. Okay, let's do a few more problems here. Write down my PEMDAS. Look for parentheses, no parentheses. Look for exponents, no exponents. Look for multiply or divide. Sure enough, I have a divide here. Now remember, we do the divide first because it comes first in the problem. Multiply doesn't take precedence over divide. It's just whatever comes first in the problem. So 24 divided by 6 gives us 4. We've taken care of the 24 divided by 6. We bring down all of our operations and numbers that we haven't used. We're still looking for multiply or divide, and we have one right here. 4 times 2 is 8. Bring down all of our operations and our numbers. Now we've taken care of multiply or divide. There aren't any left. And finally, we're adding or subtracting, and 7 plus 8 gives us 15. So we've taken care of those numbers, and we've done our add and subtract. Okay, that's going to conclude our notes for order of operations. You're going to see these two problems in your SWIC and your Show Your Know It. So you'll kind of see those when you get to your little quiz over this section of notes.